There are moments when a ruler must vanish, not out of fear, not out of weakness, but because the architecture of power demands silence before conquest, absence before return. In the theater of domination, retreat is not surrender, it is repositioning. Disappearance is not defeat, it is design. Power does not announce itself in every moment. It waits, it listens, it lets others speak, expose, exhaust. The one who governs reality must know when to retreat into the fog not as prey but as hunter. The most fatal strike is born in the unseen hour. To command a world of shifting masks, you must become ungraspable. Presence breeds predictability. Predictability breeds vulnerability. When they cannot locate you, they cannot prepare for you. When they cannot hear you, they invent your voice. Let them. Every visible act is a message. Every absence, a message louder still. Disappearance becomes legend, and legend has more power than presence ever could, because it leaves space for fear to grow. And fear not love, not admiration is the architect of control. To vanish is to reframe the field. It is to deny your enemies the stability of your image. When they look for you in familiar patterns and find only silence, their confidence cracks, their unity splinters. Their eyes turn inward, suspecting each other. You have already begun to win. Withdraw to observe. Withdraw to understand the structure beneath the surface. Most fight on the stage, forgetting the machinery backstage, the levers, the curtains, the lighting. That is where the real control lies. A prince does not merely act, he directs. To disappear is to become myth, and myths do not die, they haunt. The air around them thickens with prophecy. People begin to whisper in your absence. And in their whispers, your name grows larger than your body ever could. Modern power is no longer about the throne, it is about narrative. Whoever owns the silence owns the story. Whoever defines the absence defines the return. Appear too often, and you become manageable. Retreat, and you become inevitable. The ones who chase popularity burn like candles, visible, radiant, and soon extinguished. The ones who embrace obscurity, who live in the folds of strategy, burn like oil, slow, enduring, lethal. Fear operates in shadows. It needs darkness to take shape. To dominate, you must become the author of that darkness. Let them imagine what you might do. Let their own thoughts destroy them. When the mind becomes the battlefield, your victory needs no armies. When your name becomes a question instead of an answer, you have begun to rule not just over bodies, but over time. You live in futures they haven't yet seen. You haunt decisions they haven't yet made. People fear what they cannot predict. They respect what they cannot reach. The visible leader is a servant of the crowd. The invisible leader is its master. Withdraw, and the noise loses its grip. In the silence, your outline sharpens. Withdraw, and you reclaim initiative. Every return then becomes an invasion. Every step, a recalibration of dominance. To retreat is to deceive. It tells them you are finished, weakened, irrelevant. And in that illusion, they reveal themselves. They relax. They expose their second thoughts. And you? You study. You refine. You choose your strike with precision. One blow, when it counts, reshapes the board. This is not cowardice. This is conquest dressed in patience. Real control does not rush. It waits until every variable bends toward inevitability. Disappearance sharpens the will. It separates the ruler from the ruled, the predator from the prey. In the stillness you remember, you were never meant to be understood. You were meant to be obeyed. Obedience comes not from explanation, but from awe, and awe cannot survive overexposure. Withdraw until your return feels like a storm, not a suggestion. You do not chase the world. You do not beg it to remember you. You make absence your presence. You make stillness your speech. You let others exhaust themselves in visibility. Then you return precise, calculated, cold. To vanish is not to fall. It is to rise beyond their reach. And when they ask, "Where has he gone?" The only answer is, he is preparing. And that answer is enough to paralyze, because they know when you return, it will not be for peace. It will be for power, complete, undivided, and absolute. Disappear to dominate, withdraw to advance. Because in a world where everyone screams to be seen, the one who watches and waits owns the endgame. There is a sickness in modern leadership, the compulsion to be perpetual, to be endlessly available, to speak, to explain, to justify. But explanation is submission. It is bending to the expectation of the crowd, the demand of the lesser mind. The ruler who explains too much becomes a servant of interpretation, and interpretation is chaos. To be interpreted is to be diluted. The true sovereign crafts ambiguity, not transparency. Let them wonder, let them guess. The unknown commands more reverence than the known ever could. In the world of influence, those who expose their entire strategy die early. There is no mercy for the predictable. A lion may roar, but it is the snake that survives in silence, striking only once and never needing to strike again. It is not always the weapon that wins wars. It is the patience behind it. The discipline to wait until even time itself bows to your rhythm. Every movement must be calculated for effect, not applause. Applause feeds vanity. Effect feeds dominion. The moment you hunger for admiration, you are already theirs. They will shape you, mold you, devour you, and you will call it love. But there is no love in politics. Only temporary alignments, brief shadows cast together before the sun moves again. Loyalty is not a gift. It is a currency, and the value fluctuates. Understand this, and you will never be betrayed. Misunderstand it, and betrayal will be the only language you hear. Withdraw, and you will see the truth of men. In your silence, they speak freely. In your absence, they reveal themselves. Proximity blinds. Distance clarifies. Step back far enough, and the theater of power becomes visible. The props, the scripts, the illusions of virtue. No man is honest under pressure. No friend is loyal when ambition whispers. Power exposes all. Do not cling to allies. They rot, they turn, they mirror your strength while envying it. They share your cause only until it becomes more profitable to oppose it. So use them without affection, without illusion. Let them be useful, never essential. Dependency is a leash you place around your own throat. Cut it before they pull. To lead is to be alone. This is not punishment, it is purification. Solitude strips away the need for validation. It reveals the sharpest thoughts, the most dangerous truths. The crowd cannot hear them. They were not made for the crowd. They were made for the one who shapes the world while others sleep through it. When you disappear, you exit their narrative, and that is when you begin to write your own. You are no longer a character in their story. You become the author of what comes next. The unseen force, the whisper behind the throne, the ghost that moves the pieces. And ghosts are more feared than kings. The battlefield is no longer land and steel. It is perception. It is suggestion. It is the silence that poisons louder than 1,000 speeches. Power today is psychological, and the most potent tactic is withdrawal, not to escape, but to distort. When they cannot see you, they imagine you. And the imagined enemy is always more terrifying than the real one. Let them declare victory. Let them celebrate your disappearance. Their joy is the perfume of premature triumph, intoxicating, blinding, fatal. They will not see your return. They will not be ready. And by the time they understand, they will already be under you. Control is never loud. It is never desperate. It is the calm hand that moves the dagger slowly. It is the steady gaze that watches kingdoms fall without blinking. It is the ability to do nothing while orchestrating everything. To vanish is to reject the need for spectacle. Visibility is currency, and every moment you are seen, you are spending it. The wise ruler invests it. He appears only when the return is maximum, when the effect is irreversible. He wastes nothing, least of all himself. Disappearance is discipline. It is a refusal to be consumed by the world's endless hunger. It is the act of saying, I will not be your entertainment, your comfort, your distraction. I will be your consequence. Not now, not yet, but soon. And when that moment arrives, when you re-emerge from the shadow, precise and poised, the world will not applaud. It will kneel, because it will understand that you were never gone. You were simply watching, waiting, becoming inevitable. In every age, there are those who seek power through noise, and those who seize it through silence. One burns fast, feeding the fire of public hunger. The other becomes the storm itself. Unseen until the sky splits open, unstoppable once it does. Withdraw to advance, disappear to dominate. It is not a tactic, it is a law of survival, written in the bones of every empire, every exile, every predator that ever stalked in the dark. You do not need to be everywhere, you only need to be right once. And when you strike, let it be clean, let it be final. No speeches, no apologies, no explanations. Just the quiet realization in their eyes that you were never a man, but a force, a design. The return of order, the end of illusion, the reign of the necessary. This is the cold truth of command. Not everyone can lead, and those who can must often vanish to do so, because real power does not live in the light. It is born in the dark, nurtured in silence, sharpened in solitude, and unleashed only when fate bends to your will. The world does not reward truth, it rewards advantage, and advantage is not seized through honesty, but through timing, through leverage, through the patient choreography of events others barely perceive. To act too soon is to collapse your own foundation. To act too late is to become irrelevant, but to act unseen, that is to become fate itself, a force without a face, a hand that moves without name or nation. This is the final form of dominion, not to be obeyed because you command, but to be obeyed because there is no alternative. In every crisis, the visible leader bleeds. He must explain, must apologize, must reassure. He is shackled to reaction. But the one who withdrew before the storm, who disappeared into the periphery, emerges untouched. While others burn, he remains intact and therefore the only one still able to decide. The world, desperate for certainty, reaches for him like drowning men reach for shore. He does not run toward the fire. He lets it consume his rivals, then steps into the silence they leave behind. Understand this. People crave stability, but they are drawn to fear. Stability is what they ask for. Fear is what keeps them loyal. The ruler who disappears cultivates both. In his absence they tremble. In his return they kneel. Because only the one who can disappear and return stronger proves that he does not serve the world. He bends it. You must not seek constant validation. That path leads to exposure, to weakness, to the slow erosion of mystique. Let others drown in the hunger to be known, to be liked, to be heard. You must hunger only for control, and control is quiet. It does not plead, it does not campaign, it does not perform, it decides. The masses will follow the loudest voice until it falters. Then they turn to the one who says nothing, but has always been watching. The one whose silence, in retrospect, contained more direction than all the noise. Silence, in power, is not absence. It is presence without permission. It is dominion without demand. Disappearance is not retreat. It is recalibration. It is the act of breaking away from the rhythm they expect, so that when you return, your timing destroys them. Predictability is suicide. The moment they can anticipate you, they begin to surround you. But when you control your own pattern, vanish, wait, strike, they never find footing. They are always too late, always behind, always one move from collapse. The great strategist does not fight every battle. He watches them unfold. He lets others rush in, drawn by glory or grievance. He calculates. He lets ambition devour ambition. Then, when the dust settles and every position is weak, he steps in, not to fight, but to rule. Because power is not won by force alone. It is won by the refusal to bleed when others do. Vanishing teaches you what presence never could. It sharpens instinct. It clarifies loyalty. It reveals who speaks your name in reverence and who speaks it in ambition. It separates the opportunist from the asset, and it teaches you the sacred principle of command. The fewer who truly see you, the more absolute your image becomes. A visible prince is vulnerable. A visible ruler must convince, must adapt, must reflect the shifting demands of the governed. But the invisible prince shapes the demands themselves. He is not a mirror. He is the mold, and what he creates is not consensus. It is necessity. Never explain your silence. Let them fill it with their own fears. Never justify your return. Let it feel like judgment. Let it feel like destiny. The one who controls absence controls narrative. And narrative is the battlefield where modern power is won or lost. You must be the one they whisper about, not the one they question openly. Mystery corrodes resistance. It spreads in rooms you do not enter. It replaces evidence with belief, and belief is harder to kill. A myth cannot be impeached. A ghost cannot be betrayed. Withdrawing is not cowardice. It is restraint. It is denying the enemy a target. It is turning your mind into the war room, your exile into a forge. The heat of isolation does not melt those who are meant to command. It hardens them. It burns away the weakness of needing to be seen. The most dangerous leaders are not those who dominate the stage. They are the ones whose shadow falls over every decision, even in their absence. Because absence, used properly, becomes presence multiplied. It is not a void, it is a pressure, a silence filled with weight. And when you finally move after months, after years, the world will not question your right to do so. They will feel it as something inevitable, something ordained. Because while they were watching the fireworks of pretenders, you were studying the map. While they were burning themselves into the light, you became the dark that defines it. This is how Dominion survives. Not through constant conquest, but through the management of perception, through the understanding that the most enduring form of power is not the one shouted, but the one whispered. The one no one saw coming until it was already too late. A ruler must know when to vanish, not merely from sight, but from the rhythms of the world itself, to sever his pulse from theirs, to let the machinery of the state grind on without him, until it forgets how to function without his hand. And then, only then, does he return not as one who resumes a place, but as one who redefines the place itself. This is the difference between influence and inevitability. Influence begs for recognition. Inevitability needs none. It simply arrives. Do not confuse disappearance with silence alone. It is a deeper absence, a removal of your pattern from the world. They must not know where you are, what you want, or who you favor. Their calculations must fail. Their alliances must weaken in the fog of your retreat. Because when the center withdraws, the orbit destabilizes. Those who circled you for gain now collide with each other. And that chaos is your inheritance. A man who disappears becomes an event. His return becomes a reckoning. Not because he is stronger, but because he is no longer measurable. Strength is finite. Fear is infinite when fed by uncertainty. Disappearance makes you unquantifiable. You become a question no one can answer, and that question begins to erode certainties, infect loyalties, corrupt plans. In exile, the sharpest minds are forged. Because exile is not always geographical, it is strategic. It is a removal from contamination. From the noise of flatterers, the blindness of routine, the erosion of command by constant compromise. The ruler who steps away voluntarily regains his vision. He sees who he has become. He sees what must be purged. And most of all, he sees the shape of what comes next. Disappear, and they forget your flaws. They remember only your force. In your absence, memory idealizes. Time transforms you from a man into a necessity. This is the alchemy of power, turning weakness into myth by vanishing before they can strip you bare. In your withdrawal, you must remain active, not in movement, but in understanding. Observe without being seen. Learn what they fear, not what they say. Their words are theater. Their silences are truth. Listen not to the speeches of your rivals, but to the tone of their quiet moments. That is where real intention leaks through. Power is not taken. It is created through the absence of alternatives. You become the only answer when all others disqualify themselves. But for that to happen, you must vanish long enough for the decay to begin the rot of their false promises, the collapse of their fragile unity. Let them feast. Let them grow drunk. Your famine will be your weapon. Your hunger will keep you sharp. You must learn to kill without a blade, to conquer without a parade. The modern ruler does not always raise armies. He raises doubt, and doubt spreads faster than fire. It moves through rooms like a whisper, clinging to every ear. It corrodes alliances. It questions motives. It makes every loyalist feel alone. And when they feel alone, they search for the one whose silence speaks the loudest. This is not cruelty. It is necessity. The state must be held together not by sentiment, but by pressure, not by ideals, but by leverage. To rule is not to be loved, it is to be indispensable. And you cannot be indispensable if you are always present. Presence breeds dependency. Disappearance breeds reverence. Let your rivals believe you are finished. Let them imagine you broken, isolated, irrelevant. That is when they speak too freely. That is when they overreach. That is when they expose what they swore to protect. Because they think the throne is empty. They think the silence means surrender. But it is not surrender. It is coiling. It is compression. It is the tension before collapse. The art of rule is the art of anticipation. Most govern in response. They wait for the fire, then scramble with water. But you must be the one who placed the ember beneath the walls, and then walked away. When the flames rise, you are already gone, or worse, already returning. Disappearance makes the world come to you, and those who come to you after your silence do so with open hands, not demands. They come in hope or in fear, and both are currencies. You must teach them that your absence is more potent than their presence, that even in retreat, you are the one who defines the field. The board remains yours, even when you no longer appear to move the pieces. Because you designed the board, you taught them the rules, and you are the only one who knows how to break them. Disappearance is a test of loyalty, of structure, of memory. Those who remain true in your absence are worth your presence. The rest are liabilities. Let the silence sift them. Let the uncertainty do what 1,000 spies cannot. A true ruler is not afraid to vanish. He is afraid only of being predictable, because predictability is the death of fear, and fear is the root from which all authority grows. So disappear, not as escape, but as strategy, as refinement, as the deep breath before the final act. Let them believe you are finished. Let them divide what they do not understand. Let them rot in the illusion of your irrelevance. Then return, not to reclaim what was yours, but to claim what was always beneath your shadow. Withdraw to advance. Disappear to dominate. This is not metaphor. This is survival. This is rule. The most enduring structures are not built in the open. They are assembled in silence, beneath the skin of the world, in rooms no one remembers, behind doors that do not bear your name. And by the time they are seen, they are already permanent. This is the logic of disappearance, to construct power not in the eyes of the public, but beneath them, to become the root, not the flower. The foundation, not the facade. Visibility is vanity's addiction. It offers the illusion of momentum, the applause of the moment. But applause fades. Applause is not allegiance. It is noise. The crowd forgets its favorites as soon as the next spectacle arrives, and the ruler who confuses attention for loyalty has already surrendered the state to whims. Disappearance is not retreat from power. It is the consolidation of it. In the shadows, you choose what to cut, what to keep, what to conceal. You no longer govern through performance. You govern through design, through manipulation, not of people but of conditions. The one who controls conditions never needs to issue commands. Events obey him as if by instinct. Do not waste yourself on constant visibility. Power requires mystery to survive. What they cannot see, they cannot resist. What they cannot predict, they cannot prevent. And so you must become a question they never finish asking, a doubt that lingers behind every certainty, the shape of something just outside their reach, closer to a force of nature than a man. In the architecture of control, the strongest pillar is the one hidden inside the walls. If they cannot touch you, they cannot destroy you. If they cannot locate you, they cannot conspire. Your absence becomes a fortress. Your silence becomes their confusion. And confusion, repeated long enough, turns into obedience. This is not the world of philosopher kings. It is the world of tacticians, of architects of perception. Today, power is not a sword, but a lens. Those who control what is seen shape what is believed. But the lens can be shattered, and when it shatters, the only truth that remains is force. So become the force they forgot to prepare for, the silence they laughed at, the ghost they buried too early. Those who live in noise lose the ability to hear the shift of power beneath the surface. They do not see the walls bending, the ceiling weakening, the supports cracking one by one. But you, in silence, in exile, in retreat, you feel it all. You see the decay. And when the time is right, you step forward not as an invader, but as the one who was always meant to remain when the rest had crumbled. To dominate without being seen is the highest art. It is not the crown that makes you sovereign. It is the unchallenged assumption that you belong where you stand. And when that assumption lives in others without resistance, you have achieved something no army can secure. Withdraw not because you lack power, but because you are cultivating it. Disappear not because you are weak, but because the appearance of weakness invites aggression, and aggression is always a mirror. When they reveal themselves in your absence, they give you their weapons. Let them strike, let them tire, let them win their empty battles. You are not here to win battles. You are here to win the war beneath the war. There is no morality in this, only mechanics. No virtue, no vice, only velocity, trajectory, and silence. If you seek comfort, do not lead. If you seek justice, do not rule. If you seek survival, build. If you seek domination, vanish first. Every system decays. Every regime ages. Every alliance fractures. The visible ruler tries to patch the cracks. The invisible one prepares the replacement. You must always be building what comes next while they are still defending what is already dead. That is the rhythm of ascendancy. Let them waste breath on the present while you make yourself inevitable in the future. And when that future arrives quietly, all at once there will be no resistance, only recognition. They will say, "Of course it was him." They will say, "He was never truly gone." They will say, "There was no one else," and they will be right. Because the ruler who disappears is not retreating. He is redefining the board, changing the language, resetting the rules, until the game can no longer be played without him. Disappearance is not void, it is saturation. It is not the absence of force, but the redirection of it inward, until it becomes so dense that when it returns, it does not resemble power, it is power. So disappear, then return not to join the conversation, but to end it. And when the silence has ripened, when time itself bends beneath the weight of your absence, return, but not as you were. Return altered, return refined. Return not as a man seeking position, but as the consequence of everyone else's failure to lead. Your presence will not ask, it will answer, not as a plea, but as a verdict. Do not announce yourself. Let the air change when you enter. Let them sense it before they see it. Let their instincts speak what their mouths do not dare. Because true power is never introduced, it arrives, and the room conforms. The ruler who disappears and returns becomes more than ruler. He becomes design, pattern, the logic by which the world once again makes sense. He becomes the stabilizer in chaos, not by virtue, but by inevitability. And inevitability is the final crown, one they cannot vote on, one they cannot remove, one they cannot survive without. This is not the story of redemption. This is not the journey of the just. This is the cold truth of dominion, that to rule, you must be willing to leave the stage until the stage demands your return. You must make yourself so absent that your presence becomes the only path forward, so feared that your silence speaks louder than their declarations, so decisive that when you act, the world does not argue, it adapts. Withdraw to advance, disappear to dominate. And when you reappear, do not return as part of the world. Return as its end and its beginning.